There's a moment that happens to a lot of people, usually late at night. You're not shopping, you're not doing anything reckless, you're just scrolling through your bank app. You already know what the number is going to say, but you still check it. And it's not panic, it's more like a quiet heaviness. You start doing math in your head. Rent, groceries, that subscription you forgot to cancel, something coming up next week that you're hoping won't push things over the edge. And the weird part is, nothing is technically wrong. You're working, you're paying your bills, but it still feels like money is always just slipping through your fingers. If you've ever thought, I'm not terrible with money, so why does this still feel so stressful? This video is for you. My name is Scarlett, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, behavior, and why smart people still feel financially stuck. If you're someone who feels like you're doing everything right but still not getting ahead, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now, let me say something up front because I don't want to waste your time. This is not a get rich in 3 months video. You're not going to wake up wealthy, and nothing magical happens on day 91. But you can change your finances in 3 months. Not because your income suddenly explodes, but because something much more important shifts. Most people think financial change is about big moves, a better job, a higher salary, a perfect investment, some moment where everything finally clicks. And when that doesn't happen, they assume they're failing. But that's not really how financial change works. In reality, money problems are rarely caused by one bad decision. They're caused by dozens of small, quiet patterns that repeat themselves every month. Auto payments you don't feel, habits you don't question anymore, stress decisions you make when you're tired, hungry, or overwhelmed. The problem isn't that people don't know what to do. It's that money has become invisible. Money leaves your life silently now. You don't hand over cash, you don't feel the friction, so nothing ever feels urgent until suddenly everything does. And when people say, I need to fix my finances, what they really mean is, I want to feel in control again. That's the part nobody talks about. Let's talk about why 3 months matters. Not because 3 months is special on a calendar, but because it's just long enough for your brain to stop resisting change and just short enough that it doesn't feel overwhelming. In the first few weeks, nothing feels different. This is where most people quit. You cancel a subscription and it barely moves the needle. You cook at home and still feel broke. You start tracking spending and think, this isn't helping. But under the surface, something important is happening. Your awareness is turning back on. For a long time, money has been running in the background of your life, like an app you forgot was open. 3 months is usually the amount of time it takes to bring money back into the foreground. You start noticing patterns, noticing that most of your stress doesn't come from big purchases. It comes from repetition. The same expenses, the same timing, the same feeling every month right before your paycheck hits. And once you see that, money stops feeling random. That alone changes everything, because financial anxiety thrives on uncertainty. When you don't know where your money is going, your brain fills in the worst-case scenario. But clarity, even imperfect clarity, lowers stress. That's why people often feel better financially before they actually are better. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who makes a decent income, not wealthy, not struggling on paper, but every month by week 3, they're tense. They stop checking their account. They delay decisions. They feel guilty buying small things. Nothing dramatic happens in their life, but the stress builds quietly. Now imagine that same person 3 months later. They're not rich, but they know exactly what week 3 feels like and why. They know which expenses pile up there. They know which ones are optional and which ones aren't. They've adjusted expectations instead of constantly reacting. That's not money magic. That's psychological relief. And relief changes behavior. Money decisions aren't made in spreadsheets. They're made in moments. At the grocery store when you're tired, late at night when you're bored, during stressful weeks when convenience feels like survival. When you give yourself 3 months, you start seeing those moments clearly. You start noticing how often spending isn't about desire, it's about relief. Relief from stress, relief from time pressure, relief from decision fatigue. Once you see that, you stop judging yourself so harshly. And when shame leaves the picture, change becomes possible. Here's the realization that changes everything. Financial progress doesn't come from intensity, it comes from consistency. Most people try to overhaul their entire financial life at once. They budget aggressively, they cut everything, they promise themselves they'll be disciplined, and then life happens. What actually works is much quieter. 3 months gives you enough time to replace urgency with structure. Instead of asking, "How do I save more?" you start asking, "Why does money feel tight even when nothing big is happening?" That question leads to better answers. You start designing your finances around how you actually live, not how you think you should live. You stop fighting yourself. And this is where the real shift happens. Money stops being a moral issue. It becomes a system. When money is a system, mistakes don't feel personal. They're just feedback, and systems can be adjusted. Over 3 months, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop reacting to money and start anticipating it. You know when pressure weeks are coming. You plan for them emotionally, not just financially. You build small buffers, not giant emergency funds overnight, just enough space to breathe. You realize that progress doesn't mean never feeling broke again. It means feeling less surprised when money feels tight. You begin to trust yourself again. That trust changes how you make decisions. You don't need extreme rules anymore. You don't need to punish yourself for spending. You make calmer choices because you're not constantly in fight or flight mode. And once that happens, the math actually starts to work in your favor. Not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent. Here's what I want you to remember. 3 months won't turn you into a different person. It won't erase past mistakes, and it won't make money stress disappear forever. But it can change your relationship with money. It can turn confusion into clarity, anxiety into awareness, and reaction into intention. And that's how financial change actually starts. Not with motivation, not with hustle, but with understanding. If your finances feel overwhelming right now, that doesn't mean you're bad with money. It means the system you're living in wasn't designed to be felt. You're not behind. You're just becoming aware. And awareness, given a little time, compounds. Progress beats perfection. Every single time. Thanks for being here.